All right, you bunch of yahoos, strap yourselves in for another episode of Dan and Don's Toxic Masculinity.
In other words, shut up, sit up, and pay attention.
Do you feel safe driving a motorcycle anymore, though, Tom? I mean, it's we live in this world where people are, a lot of drivers are preoccupied a great deal with their cell phones, texting, talking, and I'm seeing more and more accidents take place all the time. And it's kind of going, wow, I'm very distracted driver.
Yeah, it's certainly taking the fun out of it because you literally have to assume every car in front of you is going to make a left. Every parked car is going to pull out in front of you. So it takes a lot of the fun away. I won't lie. LA was the worst though, because you're on the floor and cars are just tilting into you. So it has enough power that if you're paying attention, you can get away quick, but it's exhausting, man. You ride for an hour and it feels like your head wants to explode because you're not relaxing at all, which is the point of riding motorcycles. Right. But here it's nice, man. They have some really cool rides from Austin to San Antonio and a lot of cool biker hangouts and stuff out here, so you get to meet some people that ride. They're the same way too. After they get drunk, they beat everybody up in Vietnam or whatever. There's, everybody drinks and tells stories out here too. It's no different. Dan and Don, what I usually don't talk about security. So my running joke is I do security, so I can't tell you any stories. But if you get me drunk on whiskey, I won't shut the fuck up. I'll just keep telling stories. They have to. They're like, dude, it's been 5 hours. You got to get out of here. I want to tell you one quick thing. When I was doing Metallica in Linkin Park at the same time, which is very rare, and Las Vegas had a show called Rock in Rio. And the same day they had about 10 bands, and Linkin Park played at 6 and Metallica was headlining. And one of the guys from Linkin Park invited Matt Brown from the UFC to watch the Linkin Park show. And then my wife now was with some friends, and she was at a hotel bar right across from and she ran into Nate Diaz. So she's like, can I bring Nate over? And I said, yeah, of course. So he came, I met him, he had a crew with him, really nice guys. And then I invited them both on stage for Metallica because we had an area where you could put people. And so I saw Matt after Linkin Park. I'm like, do you want to come up? He's like, fuck yeah, I'd love to see Metallica. I invited Nate. And as I was walking the stage, it hit me like they might not like each other and they might start a brawl on the side of the stage and everybody's going to go, where did these guys come from? And everybody's just going to point at me. So luckily, I think respectfully, Nate was too high to make it up to the staircase. I don't think he would have found the staircase. But I mean, something you don't think you're going to worry about, that there's going to be a UFC fight on the stage of a Metallica show. And when we were in
you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful about that because nobody likes Dan Severn. So anywhere he goes,
always getting in trouble. Yes, always getting in trouble.
Yeah. Well, we were in Atlantic City with Metallica, and we were doing a festival, and it was Thursday, and on Friday there was a fight. And the promoter asked us if we wanted to go see a UFC fight. And of course, I wanted to. I had to talk the singer into going, and we went. We had a great time, and we got down pretty close to the ring. We got introduced to Dana and his security and all that. But the cameras were just on my singer the whole time. At some point, I was like, we can't even see the show. Is there any way? And Clay was fighting Gray Maynard at the time. Clay Guida against Gray Maynard. And he said his corner after the second round was, Metallica's here. And he's like, and it's Clay's favorite band of all time. So he's in a tough fight. And he's like, which one? Is it James? And he goes, yeah, oh, fuck, that's my favorite. So they're talking about that during the fight. He goes, dude, you got another round. So they went out. Unfortunately, he lost the fight. And the next day we had a show. And the girl PR had seen Clay in the crowd. So he had a broken orbital. He had MRIs. He was in the hospital for 6 hours. And he got there just in time to get into the mosh pit.
Oh, wow.
That's how crazy this motherfucker is. So my PR girl, the PR girl from the test, sees him puts him on the side of the stage. So I'm on stage left, he's on stage right, and I keep looking over there. I'm like, dude, that looks like Clay, but with a big swollen head, and he's wearing big glasses. His head was so big. So I slid around the back, and he was embarrassed because he had lost. And I go, bro, we are so stoked to see you. It was his first fight. And that's how I met Clay. And that was about 7 years ago. And I don't know if you know this about Clay, but no UFC fighter goes to more concerts than him. That's all he does. He gets in a big Winnebago and goes all over the country watching concerts. So I've been fortunate enough to be with cool bands from Green Day and Robert Plant, where he comes and brings a crew with him. And he's really been lucky enough to meet his favorite idols, which is Metallica and then Robert Plant and Led Zeppelin. So we have that bond through music. And I've meeting a lot of fighters. I hear that music is a big part of their training. They're walking out. I was going to ask you guys, musically, do you listen to stuff when you're training or even lifting that kind of gets you through a workout? And is there something you listen to in the locker room that gets you pumped up for a fight?
Definitely. Go ahead, Severn.
No, I was gonna say I was getting ready to turn the table right on you there, Tom, there because I figured with you and your workout stuff like that you probably enjoy music when you're working out. Well, I think most athletes enjoy something that's a little bit more amped up while they're working out, just so that it kind of gets them into the rhythm. Whether you're lifting weights or banging on heavy bags and stuff like that, you want something that's a little bit more amped up and get you fired up.
Every once in a while, I see a fighter coming out to light music, and I always wonder what that's about. Is it getting him to a meditative state, or what's that? What's going on with that?
I don't know. I think they're a goof. I like Fight of the Bumblebee.
Dude, I'm thinking you're like a Leonard Skinner or friggin' old school.
Yep.
Do you listen to Southern rock and classic rock and all that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Johnny Cash.
Yeah. That's what I grew up on. So for me, Metallica, I love Metallica. I got to be honest, before I worked with them, I didn't know that much about them. And I know they were massive. And everybody's like, you're either going to love or hate it. And you get a true appreciation for, just like you guys do when you're training and you see someone great at jiu-jitsu or great at striking, you're like, okay, that's not what I do, but that's really impressive to watch someone. I'm the same way. There's types of music I don't listen to, but if they're really good at it, it's fucking impressive. You're like, God, these guys are so good. They figured out, what it is. And for me, music's huge, always has been for training, but it's not, I'm not saying it just because we're on a podcast, but I listen to podcasts now all the time. I was going to tell you guys one thing that's interesting because, when you travel, you're going to be 200 days of traveling. So it could be about 100 to 150 gyms. So you can imagine how many different gym stories you have because every gym is goofy in its own way. Yeah. There's not a gym in the world you don't go to where you're like, why is this dude naked in the bathroom blowing his balls? You're like, why is this so strange? Every gym is so bizarre. But I've been in like Latvia, Russia, and all this stuff where it's super intense, being the tourist and kind of coming in there. But one time I was in Alabama and I had breakfast at a Waffle House and they told me about a gym. So I went into the gym and basically as I was bench pressing, I looked up and I just saw a lot of like 666 and really aggressive death metal. And I look around and figure it called itself like Satan's Den or some crazy shit like that. So like, how can I get a good workout in and not get killed on the way out of here? Because it was super intense. And then when I went to the parking lot, every car is a truck with gun racks and guns. I'm like, I'm not sure this is the place to come back to. But
wow.
Yeah, there's just so much different stuff going on.
I don't see anything wrong with that. Anything at all.
Yeah, I just didn't want my Olivia Newton-John song to come out of my my Walkman at the time.
Yeah.
Well, with you traveling to all these countries, I mean, have you picked up any like a little local languages so that you could just say a few token type things?
Yes.
You said, okay.
Yeah. So someone I traveled in early in, someone said like, you don't speak this language? I'm like, dude, we're in 40 countries a year. How could I speak all 40? So what I did is I made a list of like 30 words, anywhere from, hello, how are you? How far, how long can we do this? And as soon as I get into the car with the interpreter, every country, I would write that list.
Right.
And then I talk to the hotel manager or the restaurant manager, and they love that you're just making an attempt.
Yeah.
Because there's this whole thing about the dumb American comes over there and why are you all not speaking English in Paris? And they're like, what are you doing here? So it shows a lot. And I'm terrible. I have the worst accent, but because I'm trying as the American guy that's running the security for a tour, of saying, I know I speak terrible, but I'm trying my best. They love it because you're showing them respect.
I totally agree with what you're saying. That I did the exact same thing. I'd always have just that working list of hellos, thank yous, goodbyes. At least you're attempting something, and it goes a long ways with the folks that you're around. So the fact that you attempted.
Yeah, no, and we've had some funny stories where the singer will get someone and say, how do I say this? And he's just fucks it up and says like, hey, I killed your mother in a blender or something, you're like, he tried to say something really nice, and it just, the whole crowd goes, ooh, and I'm like, I don't think that's what he meant. So it always comes down to intent, you're trying to do the right thing, but sometimes it just doesn't work out.
You just did an event with Bellator, right? Last week.
Yeah. That was the $1 Million Grand Prix.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was cool for me because in the inner circle is where I kind of post up. So, like I said, Mike Beltran, Frank Trigg are both referees. So in between each fight, I'm talking to one of them, and then Clay's right on the outside, and it's hard because I can't really watch the fights because there's always a little bit of issues, but there was some Long Beach gang members there supposedly, and so we had to keep an eye on people. It worked out great. Everybody was cool. The police there I work with really close, so it's just like going to a Raider game. There's fights breaking out up at the top, and over here there's this going on. But our goal is what we do, our company is we're really just making sure the fighters are protected and can get from their dressing room to the ring and back. But one thing I want to tell you guys, it's really interesting until I talk to the security team. So if you go to a rock show, everybody wins, right? You're going to see a band you love. So unless they're totally terrible, everybody leaves, they're happy, they're excited, they had a great night, got a buzz, everything's cool. These guys of 32 fighters, half of them are going to lose.
Right.
So half of them in some of the opening fights, this might be the third fight of a 3-fight contract. They might be working at Staples next week if they don't win. So you're dealing with a lot of emotions. So I go to the security and go, the normal things that are important to you are not now. I had a girl whose husband just got knocked out. She's not allowed to come into the inner circle. You have to be flexible and go, this is one time you can, because you're empathetic for these people. And think about that. 16 people are going ahead. And as you guys know, 16 people times there are 3 guys that are training them. There are other people in the camp, their family. There's a lot of people disappointed, and there's frayed edges and frayed nerves after a fight. And sometimes the camps get a little shady with each other, and you just got to slide the cops in real nice and go, guys, we're all good. No one wants to go home in handcuffs. It's been a rough night. Let's get you home safe, and just try to calm them down and just kind of really talk to them, and don't point and don't go, hey, shut the fuck. You just got to talk to these people. But it's much more sensitive than a rock show or sporting event, another sporting event, because the cost of someone losing can be, as you guys know, very dramatic. So you try to give them a soft place to land, that if they have a rough night, we're there to kind of get them back to the hotel safe.
Yeah, and all eyes are on that one person, whereas in a team, they could hide, be fight behind somebody else. But when they're fighting, it's just them,
Yeah. But what about your team? I mean, when you it's very few losses for you guys, but when you lose, they're down too. They've been with you every step of the way. They kind of take the loss themselves, correct? With
right,
you?
but
I mean,
they look at you for how you're going to respond. How you're going to react, and once you crack a joke, then they relax.
It breaks the ice.
Yeah, and they know, hey, shit happens. We didn't do it right, or I didn't do it right. You can't.
The guys you trained with, are they still in your life? Like, do you still know these guys? Are they still brothers?
Hell yeah, they're good guys, man. They're good guys, and I trust them with my life.
Right.
And they're just solid people, man, all the way around.
Now, because of what you guys, sorry, I'm interviewing, but I'm curious. I know the intensity of what I don't pretend to know, but I know I could see the intensity of a loss or a tough fight. How long does it take you to recover after something like that? Are you ready to just get back and turn that around, or I got to let my body heal, my mind heal, or is every fight different?
It takes 2 weeks to recover if you don't get hurt, win or lose. Yeah. It's 2 weeks to recover. It does me. I don't know. Ask Mr. Severn.
Well, see, Tom, I'm a little bit different category there than what Don and the regular guys did. I mean, it was there wasn't much money in the UFC when you first began, so I kind of did it more or less as a hobby, so to speak. So it was, I mean, out of I've got over 100 cage fights. I mean, I only ever did 2 training camps, once for 32 days, once for 35 days for UFC 5 and for the Ultimate. The rest of the time, I mean, I was always running. I was always running classes at my training facility, and I'd always would like it when there was an odd number of participants, because if there's an odd number, that means I get to play. But if there's even numbers, all I am is the barking general, the coach. That's making certain that everything is flowing nicely. But that's where, I mean, I always felt that I ran a good practice because I never had anybody ever get hurt in practices, and that was a big thing, because you can't train 100%. Because, well, first off, you're going to run out of workout partners. Nobody wants to be a punching dummy for you.
Right.
And you don't want to be a punching dummy for somebody else. So 10% of flare. So I was always good about when I started to see a group of 3 starting to flare a little bit. Okay, change them out with other people. So
interesting.
That was just me.
Thank you for watching another episode of Dan and Don's Toxic Masculinity. You better like, subscribe, and share, or I'm going to come to your house.